Hi everyone, and welcome to Adobe Max, and welcome to this Meet the Speaker session. My name is Kris Andrew, and I'll be your host for today. And I'm joined by a very special guest who is an artist and a designer from Sydney, Australia, where I'm from as well, Kris Andrew Small. Welcome, Kris.
Hi, thanks.
How you going today? Good?
I'm good, yeah. I've been watching Max all day, so I'm having quite a good day.
Awesome. So for those who don't really know who you are or who are not familiar with your work, can you just describe to us what you do?
Sure. So yeah, my name is Kris Andrew Small, and I'm an artist and a designer based in Sydney. I kind of have had like a very mixed career. I started off in advertising and have kind of like progressed to an artist, but now I work a lot with typography, a lot with collage, a lot with kind of like abstract textual works. And I kind of just like blur the lines between art and design, I think, a bit. And yeah, I just work with brands a lot. I make a lot of personal work. Yeah, it's a big mix of everything, I think. Anything creative, I'll have a crack at it, I think, at one point.
Yeah, awesome. I love how you mentioned the blurring of art and design, and I want to touch on that a bit later on. But I've got some questions to ask you, and I also encourage people to share your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them when we can. But I want to start with a question. You've worked for a lot of big brands in your career, such as Nike and Apple. What advice would you give to someone looking to get noticed by famous and well-known companies such as them?
Yeah. I don't know, it's a tricky one. Like, I don't feel like there's a recipe to kind of get noticed by them. What I would say is I feel like brands are just looking for people who kind of not fit into a niche, but like kind of make something that's like part of a bigger conversation. So I feel like I've always made work that I think kind of like stands for something, and I'm very honest about that and what I stand for. And I think, brands kind of see that. And they kind of want to work with me because of that. So I would say to get noticed is to just make work that's really true and really honest to yourself, and then put it out there and try and get as many people as humanly possible to see it. And also be realistic. Like, you're not going to graduate university and then go and work for Apple next week. Like there's normally kind of a progression in between that. And I think people don't really see that, like they see a successful artist or whatever, and they think like, oh, they just like landed there, hit the ground running. But it's very much years of kind of doing not so good work and working for not so good brands that lead to that thing. So one thing leads to another. It's like a ladder. You start with one brand and you kind of work up to the thing. But
I love that, because a lot of people's expectation is hit the ground running. I want to go and work for Apple or Nike straight away. Yeah. But I love that progressive nature that you were referring to. Just on that, just to continue on that, what is it actually like working with those types of brands, in comparison to perhaps the smaller ones that you started with?
Yeah, it's quite surreal, I think. It always feels intense because obviously I'm in Sydney and a lot of them are based in the States or in Europe. So there's already this like massive time difference that you're trying to kind of navigate. But I mean, it's like anything. And I think it can be really exciting working for big brands because obviously they've got such a big reach, and they've got budgets to kind of make like amazing things that you wouldn't normally be able to do yourself. So I mean, not every experience is a positive one. Obviously there's times where it's difficult, but I think for the most part, I think I'm in a very lucky, fortunate kind of situation where I have like a very specific style. So they kind of know what they're going to get from me. It's not like I'm going to send them something and they're going to be like, what is that? That's completely wrong. So I feel like I have had a very good experience because I've always delivered like, what they've asked for. And it is very surreal. It's very exciting. I feel like I really try hard to be easy to work with and to be nice and to be kind and friendly. And I think that's even, no matter how big the brand can be, like it can get really intimidating when you're on a call with like 20 people from Apple, but I think if you're just nice and honest and like really passionate about the work, they can see that and it just makes working together a lot easier, I feel. So it's definitely, it's still surreal, but it's a good experience to get these opportunities for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, really interesting. I wanted to touch on some of the things that you spoke about in your talk that was a bit earlier on. So I've got a couple of questions here. You describe yourself in your talk as not being the best technical designer. As you were building your career and body of work, did this thought kind of hold you back a bit?
It did and it didn't. I think like it did because I was always a bit insecure that people would find out that I wasn't very good. And that's probably, but in hindsight, that's probably what pushed me to make the work I do now, because I was like, well, if it's really cool, maybe they won't realize that it's, you know, if it looks really good, maybe they won't notice that it's technically problematic. But I think as well, like I don't know what it is in my brain. Someone tells me to do something and I have to do the opposite. So like, even I remember when I was learning Photoshop originally, they were like showing us all these really cool tools and they were like, why don't you make a logo for a cafe? And I was like, but I don't want to do that. I want to make like a crazy GIF, you know? So I think I was always more focused on making something that I thought was like cool or said something or that I hadn't seen before, as opposed to being like following the kind of exact list of things that I was supposed to be doing and things like that.
Tick,
so,
that's done.
Yeah,
I get it.
And I think as well, like then I went from there to working in advertising, into like these massive advertising agencies. And I think because there was so many people, I could like mask my bad technical skill, because it was rare that I was working on one thing. It's like I'd take it, do something, someone else would pick it up. I'm so sorry for whoever got my Photoshop files. But I think over time I realized that it wasn't always about being technically good, and it was more about what the work meant and what it stood for and what it looked like, and did it kind of express myself. And then there is no right or wrong. If I make something that tells my story and looks like me, then who cares if it's a bit wrong or something's a bit, you know, doesn't follow the like who's to decide what's right and wrong, you know?
Yeah, there's no rule book, right? There's no like instruction manual.
Technically there's technically there is a rule book. Just whether you choose to follow it or not.
That's but good point.
But yeah, going back to your question before, like I think I always saw myself as an artist that actually just trained as a designer, and I don't think, you know, as an artist it's very different. You're not you don't have to follow the same rule book as designers do. So I think I just studied graphic design. So I was like, cool, I'm a graphic designer, but really in my head, I was an artist, and I was always trying to break the rules and not cut corners, just find different ways of doing something. So I love that. Hey, questions come through from the comments. So pretty much based on what you were just saying, how do you evaluate what brands to work with that aligns with your own values? Yeah, that's a big one. Like I always say that it's a tricky one, because I think like that is a really hard question. Obviously there's brands that I'm not going to say any, but there's brands that I'll never work with because I do think that they are morally wrong, or I don't agree with their values, or they've had a bad history of certain things. I think I've just not really had that much experience in that area. Like I feel like most of the brands that I work with, or the projects that have been offered to me, are quite in line with what I stand for, or at least the project is in line for you know, is in line with what I stand for. So I would never work for certain companies, and I don't care how much money they try and give me. It's never been about that for me. You know, so I think it's okay to say no to things, and that and to stand up for yourself and to be like, I don't want to do that because of this reason. But I think I've been pretty lucky up until this point with and I think as well, I'm literally a broken record, but I think it's because I'm openly queer and I put it 100% in my work. So I think that then attracts like a certain kind of client or a certain project. It's rare that I'm going to get something outside of that, because I'm so outspoken about that I think they're like, well, it's probably not going to want to do something that's, you know, doesn't fit within that realm. And I would never do that, but I'm in a fortunate position to be able to say no to things. I realize that. I think that's important. You know, like you're saying, you know, you don't want to be tied to something that you really don't believe in, or you don't share the same values with. So that's really powerful. We've had another question come in. This one's from Flynn. David Carson is known for breaking the rules too. What do you think of his work? I really like it. I have to be honest. only recently found, you know, when you find an artist and you've seen their work around all the place, but you've never been like, oh, that's David Carson.
Yes, yeah.
So I'd always seen his work from afar and been like, oh, that's amazing, never kind of realizing who it was or whatever. And then in the last year, I kind of found his work all at once, and obviously I like it a lot because he does what he wants to do, and he's not so influenced by everything that's going on, and I think that's like incredibly amazing. And I don't want to like draw parallels with him, but I feel like I definitely relate to that kind of sense of being like, okay, well, just because I sit within this world doesn't mean I need to follow the rules of it. You know? And I think I really respect his career and all the amazing things he's done, and I hope I have like a similar kind of trajectory over the time. I feel like I definitely I'd love to talk to him, actually. I feel like we'd have a lot to talk about. I can't surf though. I feel like that would be problematic. I might have to learn before I meet him. But hopefully we'd like bond over, because I also I know he doesn't use grids, and I'm the same. Like because this is funny as well. People I always used to say that I was like, I never used grids, and people were like, oh, did you get that from David Carson? And I didn't know who he was, so I was like, no, I don't know who that is. I just don't use grids because I feel like they constrict me. And I feel like I have to stick to the rule then, and it stops a lot of creativity. Whereas if I just see it as a page that I need to fill, I'm free. I don't have to, stick to anything. So yeah,
interesting. So you could definitely bond over something like that with David, but perhaps perhaps it's even red wine. Perhaps the reason why I bring that up is because in your talk you mentioned. You have I
thought they'd cut that out, but anyway.
It is not. It's so good that they mention that, because you have a piece in the Louvre that you mentioned in your talk, and you said that you had it after a few glasses of red wine. Did you ever think that something like that would end up in the Louvre?
No, I don't think you can ever prepare yourself for something like that. And going back to the thing before, not that anyone else would particularly know, but I know that the poster's full of mistakes. Probably because I'd had some wine while making it, but no, I don't think you can prepare yourself for being in a good position like that. But I do like a bit of wine, and sometimes I just think one or two glasses loosens me up to like be a bit freer. I don't want to promote like go and get drunk while working at all. I just think
no promotion of getting drunk.
Sometimes it's like it's nice to let go a little bit, and I think that's very much, that poster was very much me just like being really vulnerable in this the early pandemic, and feeling really like vulnerable and disconnected to the world, and I just wanted to say something about that. And I wasn't so much thinking about the visual side of the poster. I was more thinking about the message and trying to convey that really easily. And I think the visual identity of the poster was kind of derived more from the message than it was anything else.
What I love about that piece in that video, and how you mentioned you went and you got a bottle of red and you had a few glasses and you did it. You didn't even think about it. You just sat down and you created something, which is incredibly powerful. Not a lot of people can do that. And you talk about writer's block and creative block even, but it's an amazing, I suppose, concept when you can just sit down and just create something from nothing. And you did that, and now it's in the Louvre. How cool is that?
It's right. It's I think because I've not been there to see it, which I will go soon now that I can. I think it still just doesn't feel real. I think once I see it physically there, I'll understand. But and it doesn't exist,
if you haven't got a selfie with it, right? So
100%. Yeah.
We got another question in from Jeremy. What is your dream project or client you haven't worked on yet?
I really want to. There's two things I really want to do. I mean, there's a million things I want to do, but there's two things that always come back. I really want to design a swatch watch. I can never say that, swatch watch. I just think it's such a cool little. I think I used to have lots of swatch watches when I was a bit younger, and a lot of artists I really like design them. So I was just like, cool, I like that. And then I always wanted to do the BMW art cards, which is I think I'm not sure even if they still do it, but for definitely in the 80s and 90s, they would commission artists to paint a car or to treat a car however they wanted. And like Andy Warhol did it, Ken Doane did it, Keith Haring did it, like so many amazing people. And I love cars, and I just think it would be really cool to have a car to play with, to like just cover it in my work. I think that would be quite stressful though, I must say, but I think it would be a really cool experience. So they're kind of the two bucket list things, but I've got like literally a million. I just want to start doing more large scale work in general as well. So that's definitely kind of a driving force, but I change what I want by the minute. So ask me again tomorrow. Yeah. What's
your favorite car as opposed to BMWs?
I really like Volkswagen. I think it's a cool brand. I think they make really. I like I have a Volkswagen, and I just had not a car accident, but like someone bumped into me, and I ordered the part online, and it all clicked in and clicked out, and I was like, it's just such cool engineering. Like it's really accessible. It's really easy. It's really like for everyone. I just like that kind of thing.
Yeah, nice. All right, we've got another question here from Edward. When you are starting your artwork, how do you come up with your ideas? Where do you find your inspiration?
I don't think I do. Like, I know a lot of people use referencing as their start point for inspiration, and I've never really been someone that can do that, because I feel like it limits me, and I think I'm trying to recreate something. I honestly just think I let myself play. So I just start making, and I don't stop until I kind of find that I've made something that I like. And going back to the thing before, like, I don't really feel like I definitely have experienced burnout a bunch of times, but I've never really had a creative block kind of thing. Like, I just feel, I really like it. Like, it's my hobby. If you like playing tennis, you want to play tennis as much as possible. I want to make things as much as humanly possible. So if I'll just keep making it, even if it's like not very good, you know, like that's not the end of the world. At least I made something, you know? So I think it's kind of just I don't know what to say, like, apart from referencing. I feel like just starting is the hardest thing. And I think once you just start, you've already got in your head what it is you kind of want to do. You've just got to spend that time to figure out what that actually is going to look like. And that can take a long time for people. Some people, that comes really naturally and really quickly. There's no kind of like right or wrong way. I think for me, it definitely took a very long time. For me, I always knew what I wanted things to look like visually, but I never sat down and like invested the time in myself to like finally like create a kind of lineage within the work. And once I did, it made a lot more sense. And that's when I started getting jobs, because finally like all of my work looked a certain way, and that took a long time to kind of get to. But I think just starting is the best way to go about it. Not sitting on Instagram or Pinterest, like just, I don't think that's a healthy way to. No,
and you kind of developed your own style from the start process, and I'm sure your style has evolved, or it will evolve over time, especially when you're working with different brands in the future. We got another question here from Jacinta. It's a good question. What advice would you give to junior designers or artists?
I mean, I would firstly say that
stop caring. You'd say stop caring.
I would say stop caring. I would also say that everyone was a junior at one point. Like one, like everyone's been there. Everyone's done bad jobs. Everyone's, started from somewhere. I would just say, I mean, stop caring is definitely one of them. But I think I would just try to, if I was telling myself, let's do it that way, like me telling a young Kris now what to do, I would just say to relax a bit, because I was so like, life is long, you know, there's a lot of time to kind of achieve what you want, and I was so caught up in being like, what's going to happen to me and like what successes are going to come, that I forgot why I did it in the first place. Like, I was doing it of course I needed a job and I needed to earn money and things like that, but I became a creative, and I think a lot of people relate to this. I became a creative because that's what I like doing. That's my life, really. That's the whole driving force for my life. So just like focus on that. Focus on the fact that you're doing this because you really like doing it and you really want to do it, and whatever success comes from that is a bonus. You know, you shouldn't define success on projects and things like that. It's if you're deriving enjoyment out of the work. And I think it's also a nice time, you know, once you get further in your career, it gets a lot more stressful and there's a lot more pressure and things like that, and it's kind of nice having that, you know, the early days in your career where you can experiment, you can do what you want, and no one's going to care if it isn't very good, you know. So just try and enjoy it, and make as much of work as you can humanly possibly make. Show as many people as you can humanly make. Don't be intimidated by people. We're all equal. We all started from somewhere. Just make and put it in front of people and be nice to people and work hard. I think that's all you can really do, and try to not stress about the future, because you can control it to a point, but you know, it's fate kind of is in control at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I've got a couple more questions before we wrap. This one's from Hannah. How did you find your style and become unique?
Through years of experimentation, I would say. Or I think it's funny because I look at the work I made when I was 18 versus kind of now, and it's actually kind of similar, but I just went off on all these like tangents and things in between. And I think I had to do that. I had to learn how to make the style that I had kind of created. I had to learn how to make it accessible to people, to kind of be able to put messages in it and things like that. So I think, again, going back to the thing of just making work, like the more you make, the more you figure out what it is you actually want to do, and what you want your work to look like, and how that can set you apart from other people, because there's no point in copying other people and referencing them and trying to emulate them, because they exist already. It's better that you spend the time trying to make your own work and try and find what it is that you're good at and put yourself in your work. I think that's a really important thing that I always say. Like, everyone has a story, everyone has a background, everyone has something that kind of makes their work unique, and I think tapping into that is a really important way to find what's relevant to you.
And did you have to go to art school for that at all, or to find that?
So I studied graphic design at TAFE, which for people who don't know, if they're watching overseas, is kind of like a government funded university, but it's kind of like you get a diploma at the end of it. So I studied full-time for 2 years, and I was going to go to university, and I got a job instead. And then I went off and worked in advertising, which it turned out it wasn't for me, but all of those different experiences over time led me to where I was now. But even still, there's no right or wrong answer. I know a lot of people that are self-taught. I know a lot of people that have been to the best design schools on the planet. I know a lot of people who went and did a short course. Like, there's so many ways that you can learn the tools of the trade and get it thing. But the lineage of everything is you have to put time into it. It doesn't really matter how you're learning. It's that you're learning and investing the time in that.
Awesome.
I think.
Okay. Okay, we've got probably about a minute to go. I'm going to ask you one more. Sure. How do you handle constructive criticism and public comments?
Very much depends who it's coming from. I mean, I'm not perfect. I understand that people won't like my work sometimes, or that they'll think that they can tell me what to do or what not to do. I mean, I don't really care that much. It exists. People are entitled to their opinion. I know in myself, for the most part, my work has good intention and is kind of doing something that someone else isn't doing. So if someone wants to pull me down, I don't really care, because I'm happy.
You know what? I was going to say, I really love your mentality and your approach to things. The fact that you don't care, but you do care, really.
I care a lot about.
Is awesome.
I care a lot about my career.
So I just want to say thank you, Kris, for joining us. It's been awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks for everyone on the line for joining us from wherever you are. And stay tuned because we're going to see Frankie C. here up next. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye.
Everyone. Bye.